Some people have scars on the outside. Some people wear their scars on the inside. But every scar has a story. Every loss carries love, and every survivor holds a strength they may not realize they possess. Welcome to S.O.S. Stories of Survivors. Hi, and welcome back to S.O.S. Stories of Survivors. I'm your host, Serina Dansker. Every week, we meet people whose lives have been forever changed by loss, trauma, illness, or unexpected life events. While every story is different, they all remind us of one thing, that hope can still exist, even after life changes forever. Today's guest is someone I'm really looking forward to talking with. Bill Osbourn spent decades in corporate leadership, serving as a chief financial officer and helping lead successful organizations. By many people's standards, he'd achieved the American dream. But then life interrupted. A serious medical event changed everything, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. When I met Bill, his story stopped me in my tracks. He told me, "I've changed since my medical event. I believe for the better. But still I have a hard time figuring out my purpose and why I was allowed to continue living." I think so many survivors ask questions or that question in one form or another. And today isn't about finding all the answers, but about exploring the journey. Bill, thank you so much for being here today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. Let's start before the medical event and talk about who is Bill. Where'd you grow up? What drew you into the business you were in?
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I lived there most of my life until age 32.
Wow.
And I met my wife in St. Louis. We both went to Washington University, and we met first day freshman year of college, actually. But we didn't start dating until our junior year. We were just friends. And so got married in 1989. We had 3 kids in the early, mid-'90s. And with various jobs I had, in corporate America, I was relocating over time. And it's kind of funny, 3 times I moved back to Connecticut. The initial time was in 1996. I moved there from St. Louis, and it was going to be a temporary 2-year assignment. I've never gone back to St. Louis except to visit.
Wow.
I went to other places down in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, but then eventually was back up in Connecticut starting in 2016. I was with a Fortune 500 company as a CFO. And so before the medical event, so it's about 6 years ago, I was 55 years old. And I was, my career was like everything to me.
What is the role of a CFO? What is for those who don't know?
CFO, you're running the finance organization, the accounting, you're planning the numbers, as far as what you want them to be, and then you measure the actual results against them. You have to deal with, you not only have a large employee organization, there were over 1,000 finance employees at Xerox that were under my organization, but you're also dealing with the investors. You're dealing with the board of directors, the CEO. And
did you enjoy it?
I did parts of it. Parts of it I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the camaraderie of my fellow coworkers. I moved companies a couple of times over the years, and some of my fellow coworkers moved with me each time, which I took as a sign that they must like me or they wouldn't have come and moved with me. So that was really what I enjoyed the most, actually, was camaraderie of, going into work, having good people you enjoyed working with. And, there were tough days and everything. And the way I dealt with stress also, and we'll get into this, was I didn't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any illicit drugs, but I would eat.
Okay.
And so that was my way of dealing with stress. And people would always say, "You're always so calm." I wasn't calm on the inside.
Oh.
And it was a very stressful job when you have a board of directors and a CEO and they want certain things. So it was and you're never off the clock. And my last job, part of the operations was over in Japan. I was often on calls like in the middle of the night.
Of course.
And it was 24 hours a day. I still remember one Christmas Eve. I was like my family's there and everything, and I'm on a call with some folks in Japan.
Oh my God.
And, it's close to 11 or midnight, and there was a big transaction going on. So it was, it was pretty intense, but, it was gratifying. It was my identity. It really was. I felt like, I'm a CFO, and everything. So, and that's always introduced myself as.
You would consider yourself driven, right?
Yes, exactly. And so then 6 years ago, I was 55 years old, and I was with a company, a Fortune 500 company up here in Connecticut. Everything was going along fine, I thought, in life. I'd married 35 plus years, wonderful wife. She put up with me, all those years, all the moves that we had, 3 adult children. 2 of them lived up here or live in New York City. They still do, and was down in Atlanta, Charlotte, and other places in the Southeast. So yeah, just very, very happy overall.
Would you say that your identity was back then was tied to your career? If you look back now,
it clearly was. That's it gave me my self-importance, and everything was about and I put the company first.
Yeah, if someone would say, what makes Bill Bill?
And I would always, I didn't have balance, and I would, it was always, if the company called, I would go, and I would go do it, and I should have, I now in hindsight, and that I should have had more balance, but I didn't, and I have regrets over that.
So then if someone asked what makes Bill Bill, it'd be my career, my company, my role.
Yeah.
If someone asked you that same question today, what would you say what makes Bill Bill today?
So I like to joke with folks when they ask me, because I had friends that are shocked that I haven't gone back to work. I was only taking a temporary period of time, and we'll get to the medical event after. I was going to take some time off, and I was going to go back, and that was it. And it was going to be a short sabbatical, and I haven't gone back. And people have been shocked that I haven't gone back. And I've had opportunities that I get nervous. I'm worried that I'll go back to the old me when the opportunities come. So my answer to folks initially is, I have 3 main responsibilities nowadays. I go, I'm my wife's chauffeur, I'm my wife's cook, and I'm a dog nanny to my dogs. And that's my main role, which really isn't far from the truth. But more seriously, actually, I spend a lot more time focusing on investing in relationships, whether it's with family members, friends, even people I don't know that well, and then also in my health.
And this is what you enjoy.
I do, actually. It's like my wife is shocked because I did hardly any real exercise when I was working. I didn't have time for it. The priority was work. And I didn't exercise. I always thought it was, because I had coworkers that would get up early in the morning and exercise.
Yeah.
I just go into the office.
Right.
And now I really try to incorporate exercise into my life. Whether I love Orange Theory, my wife got me into that.
Oh, wow.
I started playing tennis again. That's where we
met.
And I hadn't played tennis in over 30 some odd years. I couldn't. I was physically unable when I first, had my medical event and everything. But as I got in better shape, I've gone back, and it's a love that I'd forgotten about. 35 years. People ask, hey, you play tennis? I go, well, I didn't play for 35 years. But, I did play back in my teens and into my early 20s, play intramurals in college, was on the high school team and that. And now I love it for the physical activity, and I love it because I'm talking with people.
The community, right?
The community. And I always find I have a bias. Tennis players, they just tend to be really good people overall. Not everybody knows how perfect, but it really is nice.
They are. They're wonderful. It's. I was not doing it in college or high school, but I did take it up later in life, and I found a passion that I didn't know I had.
Exactly. And they say, hey, if you play tennis a lot and everything, you're going to be a healthier, longer lifestyle. All those Instagram things that are, come in your algorithm or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really true. So let's talk about the medical event. I'd love for you to share that.
Okay, so it was 6 years ago. It was in late February of 2020 when it happened. Wow. And what happened, I still remember I was going on a plane flight down to Puerto Rico. It was for a personal thing. My wife was already down in Puerto Rico. She's from Puerto Rico. And we were going to buy a condominium for a relative of hers to help them to have a place to live and everything. But they needed the paperwork all signed off. And naturally, I couldn't go with her ahead of time. She had to get all the pre-work done. And then I just show up for the signing. All right, so I caught a late flight out of JFK. To go to Puerto Rico. I was going to get in around midnight, leave here around 8 p.m. And so I get to JFK. It was Terminal 2, Delta, because I know Delta doesn't use that terminal anymore.
Right.
But I remember I got there a little early, dropped off some luggage because I was bringing some stuff down, and checked in outside, and then I go inside, and there's a lounge
Right.
inside, and it's upstairs, up steps. You can in Terminal 2, it was small, and the airline lounge was up some steps. There might be an elevator somewhere, but they're in the middle, and you can see it from the whole square walking around. I go up those steps, and as I was going up the steps, suddenly I couldn't breathe. And I'm gasping for air. It's like no air would get into my lungs. I'm just fighting. And I come in the door to the airline lounge, and they want proof that, I'm showing I'm like barely able, I'm gasping. The person lets me in. I fall into the nearest chair I can fall into.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't know what was happening. I was really confused. And finally, I was gasping, and then eventually I caught my breath.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, what happened? I was exhausted. It's like, I don't know, like I'd run a 5K, sprinted or something. Not that I knew what that was like back then. But I was sitting there saying, what's happened? And I thought about it, and I said, well, you know what? Maybe I should get an ambulance and go to a hospital.
Right.
And my daughter is in New York City. Because my wife was down in Puerto Rico, she can meet me at the hospital and make sure everything's okay. So
oh, my gosh.
I did a stupid thing in that I said, you know what, though? My flight doesn't leave for an hour. Let me just get a bottle of water and go walk around the terminal. Maybe I forgot to breathe. No, seriously, that's so stupid.
Well, but you're not thinking
I'm
clearly.
not thinking straight. I go, so I got a bottle of water. I walked around the terminal, and I said, you know what? I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on this plane. And so I got on the plane.
Oh,
and
boy.
I'm on the plane going down. Thank God nothing happened on the flight. So I make it down there. And I get down there. I'm one of the first ones off the plane. I have to go pick up this piece of luggage. I'm racing down the terminal in San Juan, and it happened again.
No.
As I'm going down the terminal, I started gasping for air. This time there's no chair. So I go to lean against a wall, and it's empty. The airport, it's late at night, and
Right.
there are people get off the plane behind me. I slide down the wall to the floor. And the shocking thing, I still think back, nobody stopped to say, are you okay?
Oh, my
I just sitting
God.
there lying on the floor, leaning up against the wall, gasping. I still, when I go to the airport, I look at that point where I was at, because I go to San Juan a lot with my wife being from Puerto Rico. And I see that point, and again, I caught my breath, and I said, okay, there's something wrong here. There's a problem.
Wow.
And I said, well, let me just start moving really slow. I said, I'm going to start taking it really calm and slow. I got my luggage, got a cab, told the cab driver, I said, can we go to a 24-hour pharmacy? Because I thought I had a heart attack. Maybe I said, I still didn't call the ambulance, which is the rational thing to do.
Even if you think you had a heart attack, right?
I go, I'll take some aspirin. So I bought some, I went to the
God.
24-hour pharmacy, bought some aspirin. I get to where my wife was staying, and it's like, I don't know, close to 1 a.m. I didn't wake her up or anything. I didn't tell her.
Oh, my God.
So I didn't tell her for 3 days down there, but she noticed, she kept saying, what's up with you? You're like really slow, really reserved and calm, and normally I'm more outgoing.
Right.
So finally, after 3 days, I told her, I said, I'm okay now. I go, I'm okay now, but I had these 2 events. I don't know what happened. I go, but don't worry about me. I'm okay. She was really worried.
Oh, I'm sure. What was her reaction?
Her reaction was, we need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But she said, well, in a minute. I said, no, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. And she goes, well, go see my cardiologist. I didn't go see many doctors or whatever.
Right.
And she goes, she had a cardiologist up here in Connecticut. We were flying back later in the week. Go see my cardiologist. So I tried to make an appointment. That her cardiologist wasn't available. But the new rookie, they had just signed on, this doctor here at Stanford Health, was available on a Friday afternoon. And I sat down with him, and he asked me a ton of questions for like half hour, maybe half hour to an hour. Finally, about 45 minutes into it, he goes, have you ever had any blood clots before? And I go, funny you should mention that. About 10 years ago, prior to, I was doing lots of plane flights, and my legs swelled up.
Yeah.
And I went in. I was in Minnesota at the time, and emergency room, and I had some DVTs, a couple of deep vein thromboses. They injected me with thinners. Then I was on warfarin at the time, Eliquis now, but warfarin was a drug back in 2010. And he said, well, that was kind of an important fact to have left out until this point.
Really?
So he said, what we need to do, he said, we need to do a test called a D-dimer test, which talks about how well your blood fights clots. It's called a D-dimer. And he said, the problem is we won't get the results immediately. You take the blood right here, but we'll have them by Monday morning. You just take it very easy over this weekend. And if you have any symptom, immediately go to the emergency room, call an ambulance, go to the emergency room, and I'll call you on Monday morning. So over that weekend, I said, I'm feeling better. I even remember I got on my elliptical at home to prove that I'm better. And I hadn't been on my elliptical. I bought it and it just stood there getting dust on it for years. But I got on the elliptical to prove that I'm better that weekend. And so he calls me up, the doctor, on Monday morning. He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm in the office here working and I'm feeling. And he goes, I need you to come into the hospital immediately. And if you can't make it, stop at the nearest emergency room. I go, what? He goes, well, the D-dimer test. He goes, a normal amount, I think it's like 250 or less is the marker, is the normal. And I go, well, what's mine? He goes, yours is 1,300.
Oh, my God.
And I said, that doesn't sound good. So got my wife. We went down to Stanford Hospital. They first did ultrasounds on my legs. And I could tell by how serious the texts were that there's a problem. There were clots all throughout my legs. And then the next thing they do, they send me over to another area, and they're going to do a CT scan on your lungs. And they do my lungs, and it comes back, and there are clots in my lungs.
Oh, no.
And so they go, we need a wheelchair. I go, I can walk. I go, no, you're in a wheelchair. We're bringing you over to the emergency room, and we're admitting you. And I said, I got a hockey game to go to tonight. My St. Louis Blues are playing the Rangers. I got tickets at Madison Square Garden. And I go, this weekend, I'm going to fly out to Jupiter, Florida, to see my St. Louis Cardinals play in spring training and meet some friends. And they said,
no, you're not.
You're not going anywhere. And it's still, so it hadn't sunk in with me, still how serious it was. My wife, I could tell she was very serious concerned. My daughter came up from the city.
She did.
And they were all very concerned. And finally, here's the moment it sunk in was I was in Stanford Hospital, not to make a plug for them. The room, this is right before the pandemic started. Remember March 13th, the Friday, March 13th of 2020 is when, this is late February 2020. I'm in Stanford Hospital and they had me in a room on like one of the top floors. It was beautiful. I said, it's really, if you have to go to Stanford Hospital, it's not bad. So I'm sitting there.
They just redid it at that point, right?
Yeah, it was brand new. It was beautiful. It was like nicer than hotel rooms I'd been in. The doctor comes in. He's a pulmonary surgeon. His name's Dr. Hastrup. And I remember he's half Puerto Rican and half Danish. I go, how does that happen? And
it's meant to be.
He takes the time with me and he says, when a clot goes to your lungs, 1 out of 3 times, you die. And so I said to him, I go, well, how many clots went to my lungs? And he showed me on the CT scan. And he said, there's too many to count.
Oh, my God.
And so there were at least 30 of them. So
oh my God.
He goes, you shouldn't be here. He goes, people don't. I said, okay, I'm not going to the hockey game tonight. I go, that's it, I'm not going to the hockey game tonight. So it hit me at that point. And I said, this is serious. And I knew immediately, I said, I had to, focus on my health and everything. And I had to, put, work on hold. But they said, well, what's the cause of it? They did all these tests, see if it's genetic, whatever. And they did all these various tests. And they really couldn't come up with anything. In fact, even a few weeks later after the pandemic, they said, maybe you had COVID. Let's see if you have the antibodies. And maybe COVID did it to you.
Oh, God.
And no, I didn't have COVID yet. I got COVID a couple years later, but I didn't have it. So they said it wasn't COVID. It wasn't anything genetic. They did all these tests on me. It really came down to that my lifestyle. My lifestyle was a combination of 2 things. I was at about 330 pounds at the time.
Wow.
And I was traveling all over. I was traveling to Japan. And I'd travel. There were even days that we were trying to get a transaction done. I'd fly from here, White Plains, over to San Francisco, have a couple-hour meeting, and I'd fly back the same day.
Yeah.
By midnight, I'd be in a small plane all day. And it's a really...
It's grueling. It's grueling.
Yeah, it's your lifestyle that we believe caused this. And so that's... so I said at that point, I need to, focus on my health. I still wasn't totally balanced because here, instead of like most people probably said, turn your resignation immediately or whatever, I was still thinking of the company. And I said, I gave the company because they have to replace the CFO.
Well, that's how you identify.
That's how I identify. I said, I gave them 6 months notice so they could find somebody new. I could work with them to get the company in the right position and everything and leave in good terms. So I didn't actually leave work until this happened all in late February, early March.
Right.
So I didn't leave the company until the end of September.
And that's when COVID started, too.
Well, it was all... Most people weren't going into work. I went into the office
still. Of course, yes.
I was one of the few people that was still, because that was so I hadn't changed totally.
Yeah.
In fact, my thought was, I'll leave for, 6 months, I'll get in shape, and I'll be back.
Yes,
and everything. And so when I
So what do they do for you? So let's talk about what they found all of these.
So the treatment amazingly is pretty. So first of all, they inject. When I was in the hospital, they were injecting blood thinners in me. Into my stomach, and I hate needles. I am so afraid of needles, but I'm getting needles into my stomach. They inject them. I wish I remember the name of the drug, but the other thing is Eliquis is a blood thinner.
Yeah.
And they put me on that 5 milligrams twice a day. And over time, the clots dissolve. It is simple as that.
Wow.
And you would monitor it. I would go to the vein specialist here in Stamford on a regular basis and see what the clots are in my legs. In fact, I still can go at any time if I'm like doing a lot of international travel, more for personal reasons now on that trip, and I'm worried in my legs or something.
Right.
I'll go in and have an ultrasound done.
Just
they'll say, "Don't worry,"
sure,
just to make sure they haven't reformed, even though I am taking the Eliquis. So the cure really was, taking the Eliquis and
changing your lifestyle.
Changing my lifestyle.
That's I interviewed a guy recently who that's his business, is helping people heal through their body, spirit, and their mind.
Yeah.
And he said it's incredible how people just focus on one thing and not the other two. And you're living proof.
Yeah. So the first thing I did as far as changing was, I know it's hard for me to diet because food meant everything. It still means a lot to me. I have an addiction to food.
Yeah. I'm a foodie. I hear you.
When I was sad, I would eat. When I was stressed, I would eat.
Yeah.
When I was happy,
Yes.
I would eat. I would eat for all reasons.
Yes.
So I had been going to this place off and on because I had tried to lose weight over the years.
Yeah.
I'd get down to 270 and say, "Aren't I great?"
Yes.
I'm 5'11", 270. Don't I look good? I really didn't, but in my own mind, I thought, and then I'd bounce right back up to over 300.
Okay.
And I'd gone to this place called Pritikin. It's a longevity center down in Doral, Florida.
Okay.
And I had gone a few times over the years. I'd had a friend at Price Waterhouse where I first started working who went there and became their finance executive. He talked me into going. But I never lived it after leaving. I'd go there a week. So I'd gone maybe over 15 years, 5 or 6 times to them for a couple of weeks, trying to get a quick start.
Yeah.
But then I'd go
Fall
back.
off the wagon, yeah.
October of 2020, I said, I'm going to go 2 weeks a quarter for a couple of years. And I would go there, you eat their foods, all natural foods, nothing processed, low sodium. You're really eating less than 1,500 calories a day, but you're not hungry.
Right.
There's like high satiety foods. And you'd have classes, you'd have medical doctors looking after you. And you'd have at least 2 hours of exercise a day, but you could do up to like 4. And I'd often do like 3 or 4 hours of different type. You'd have your cardio, your core, your resistance. You could do water aerobics.
Right.
And I even started hitting a tennis ball there a little bit again for the first time. So that Pritikin was really a place, and they really helped me move along. I would lose 5 to 7 pounds a week while I was there.
Wow.
And then when I'm back home, my goal was not to put it back on.
Right.
And then go again. And it really was. And it took, I'm that slow of a learner. But it took that, a couple of years of going to them to really get it and to change my habits.
That's
and
it.
know that, eating isn't the answer. And I remember they even had psychologists there. And one of the psychologists, she said to me, she goes, you need to create a party in your mind with something else.
Yes.
Not food.
Yes.
Parties, the food's creating the party. And so tennis, is one of the examples that creates a party in my mind. Something that you find fun in your mind that can create enjoyment that's not food.
That's amazing. I mean, that must have been the hardest part of this recovery for you, was changing your mindset.
I love to eat, and I feel bad because I pulled others down around me that, because I was always eating out, and I was always eating too much, and I was a bad example in that way, whether for my wife, my kids, and everything, that I should have been a better example with respect to my health, and I wasn't.
But in your defense, you identified with your work and your career, and food was just that was your pleasure, if you will,
really
when you were with your family. It was just something you associated with with good times.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's your physical recovery. What about your emotional recovery?
The emotional recovery, it still took some time. So here I am in late 2020, 2021. I'm starting to spend more time with friends, even though it's a pandemic and everything, my adult kids, especially the 2 that were living in New York. And it was funny. One time we were at a place called The Edge. It's in Hudson Yards. Mm-hmm. It's an observatory deck It's 100 floors up, and it has a glass floor on the outside, and you can look down 100 floors to the street. And we just went. It was something to do in the city. Our two kids live there. We went to that observatory, and I was talking to a security guard up there on the deck your way out, and I heard one of my kids say to the other, I think it might have been my younger son saying to my daughter, "Oh no, Sabbatical Bill personality. Sabbatical Bill's back." And I heard him say that. And so I asked him, I go, "Brenda, what do you mean by, later on?" I said, "What do you mean Sabbatical Bill?" And he goes, "Well, do you remember 4 years ago when you were between jobs, my prior company had gotten acquired.
Right.
And I had 18 months off being paid.
Right.
Naturally, I only took about 6 months off.
Of course.
And went back to work, even though I could have paid for 18 months. But he goes, in that 6-month period, we all noted that you were like more talkative with people you didn't know.
Wow.
And they called it Sabbatical Bill.
Oh, that's
And
so
that was the
funny.
personality. So they actually, like, my phone got labeled Sabbatical Bill or whatever. Yes, if you're looking at my phone, you're looking for a hotspot and everything. So, and I said, wow, I go, you really can, there's a difference? And he goes, yeah, you're social. He goes, you don't normally talk with people you don't know.
Interesting.
And I thought back and I said, I was so busy and so intense that I was kind of transactional, saying, do I have to talk to you or not? And if I didn't, I didn't talk to folks that much. And so now, I love talking to people.
Yeah.
I love whoever it is. I don't have to be getting something from them to be able to talk to them. So it kind of hit me a little bit then that my kids, they're the most honest with you, and they notice that. And then another event that actually more recent, even like about almost a year ago at this time, it really, really hit me, was that my older son, Ryan, was on the track team in college. The speed skipped a generation. My dad was fast. I'm not fast. And my younger son was a 100-meter, dash sprinter or whatever in college. And we would I'd try to get to one meet or two meets a year. My wife and I, we went back to St. Louis. We'd meet the other track team members' parents and everything. And so then he graduated. I want to say he had been 22 in like 2016, 2017. You don't see many of those parents again.
Right.
Well, one of the team members got married back in St. Louis and last fall, and we got invited. We knew him. The team member was a good friend of my son's. Wife and I go back, and I start talking to one of the other parents who I remembered. I hadn't seen him in like 8 or 9 years, and he hadn't, and he was with an investment bank in St. Louis, and we were talking a little bit. And then after like about a little while, 10, 15 minutes, we're just talking, or after the wedding and before the reception, and he says to me, "You've changed." And I started going right to, I go, "Oh yeah, my healthy lifestyle. I'm on this health kick. I've lost, 120 pounds and everything." He goes, No. He goes, "I know." He goes, "I'm not talking about that." And I go, "What?" And he said to me, he goes, "You're a nicer person."
Oh my God.
And it hit me. I'm sitting there thinking, a nicer person? And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "When you were here before," he goes, "you acted like you didn't have time for us."
Oh my God.
And it wasn't that I was meaning, but I was probably distracted.
That's it.
And so
yeah.
it made me feel like, and it was like, I really liked the guy. He was honest. He wasn't, he was saying it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And everything. He says, "Yeah, you just acted like you didn't have that much time." And so it hit me. And I go, wow. I go, that hurts. I go, I thought I was just a nice guy to everybody. Obviously, I wasn't.
Well, it's just that I think not that you weren't, but it's just you're different. Before you go through something so traumatic, it's not that you're a bad person. Your focus is different.
Yeah.
Before I went through what I went through, my focus was different. I wasn't a bad person. I was just focused differently.
Yeah.
And then you go through this life-altering event that changes you. It could kill you, but it doesn't. And you come out the other side, and you morph.
Yep.
You change like a butterfly, if you will.
It is amazing what you're doing. I got your book online and started reading it. I was looking for the audio. I didn't find the audio, but I actually been reading it. What you're doing is amazing, and how you're dealing with your event and everything. It's just it is truly
we all
amazing.
have our burdens,
yes.
and I think it's just so important that we share them with people because they know that they're not alone, and you are amazing. I have to tell you, I was so excited to talk to you. Oh my gosh. All right. So now you're talking to people and they're like, oh my God, you were a jerk and now you're a good guy.
Yeah, I thought it was, it's funny. I thought I was a really good guy, and I thought I was really good looking, handsome too. And I was 330. And so there's a joke that goes around, actually some friends that we've made with one of the things we do. We sponsor students going over, my wife and I going to Europe with the school. Our kids used to go to Christian Heritage School.
Oh, yeah.
And I go as a chaperone now and everything. And I tell them, it's kind of a joke we have. They all get the biggest kick out of it. One of my first evaluations I got as a staff when I was at Price Waterhouse, my first job, the self-confidence was on there. And they gave me a 1, the highest rating. And underneath it said, for no apparent reason. So it is the funniest thing. So, self-confidence. Yeah. I'm handsome, I'm a nice guy or whatever. And I really did not see myself as I was.
Oh my God. But that's okay. It's a journey. And I think, I think self-confidence, even if it's just in our own eyes, I think it's important because I think it tells a lot about who you are. And it also sets the stage on how others view you.
Yeah.
It does.
So I still am a little bit more humble. I try to be humble, not quite, but it's I've realized that I have areas I've been working on, and I'm still working, on it.
So let's talk about your recovery. So I know you've gone through a lot, both physically, emotionally. What was the hardest part, do you think?
The hardest part, I would still say was, part not being associated with work, to say, I would, and not to be people, because I so much identified, that was my prestige. And you know what? You find out a lot of people, as the psychologist at Pritikin would say, they are your paid friends and they're not your real friends. Because he would ask me who my friends were and everything.
Right.
And I was getting invited to things all the time by folks, but it wasn't necessarily, maybe it's a little bit me, but it was matter what, I was CFO, what business could I give them?
Right.
And, not having that prestige. And so for the longest while, I would always say, I'm just on sabbatical. But then I finally realized, actually, sometime in the coming months, my wife and I we're going to have we want to have an event to get a lot of our friends together, and we're going to have a retirement party for me, because I never got to have a retirement party or anything. I was with 3 different organizations over the years, and I said, I'm going to invite all my friends. Hopefully they show, just to say, because I'm not going back to that lifestyle. I've had some opportunities, and I just said, I know what could happen.
Yeah.
I could go back to that old self from unhealthy living and just the way I was. And I said, I can't do that. I said, that's not for me anymore. And I decided I'm not going to go back.
Oh my God. So you had this party.
Well, no, we're having it.
Oh,
we're going to have it. We're still working on, we're still debating on where and everything. So I want, so hopefully sometime this fall.
Oh my God, that's
we'll
amazing.
have a party. And we had a party a few years ago at our house, and we got a whole bunch of friends together. It was for our dog's 15th birthday, her quinceañera.
I love that.
Rosie, it was actually on my birthday, but it was Rosie's quinceañera. My daughter had just done the New York City Marathon the weekend before. And by the way, thirdly, it was Bill's birthday. But it was what we found. It was great getting all those friends together. We got a big tent in our backyard, like a little dance floor. And they said, let's have another excuse to get that group of people together. And I invited 80 people, and everybody said yes.
That's amazing.
They go, a dog's quinceañera? We'll be there.
That's hysterical. Do you ever grieve that old life that you had?
Not as early on, but not as much anymore. It's funny. I see it like when I'm at the gym at times. I'll see another person on the phone, talking all intense,
right,
and everything, having some conversation. And sometimes I hear the way they talk to their employee, and I said, "You need to do better." They're really rude to their employee. But I hear those conversations, and I go, I remember that used to be me. You might be, although I didn't work out,
right?
But you'd be in the middle of something, and you pick up the phone, and so I don't, because I see a lot of folks that are just have that intense, like everything is related to work. And so it took time, but now I don't miss it.
That's now, when we talked, you said you've changed. Let's talk about
Okay.
that. And you weren't sure exactly what changed, or how your life shifted, or why you're still here.
Yeah. So the change. Well, first of all, we've talked a little bit. I said I'm going to spend more time not only being a better husband. As I can always do that. I'm still working on that, but also I've had an opportunity with my adult kids, and they're in their mid-late 20s. Now they're all close to 31s, over 30, and spending time with them,
Yeah.
doing things that I wasn't able to do. I should have spent time when they were younger.
Right.
And my wife and I, we joke a little bit that we want our kids eventually to get married. One's 27, one's 30, one's 31. Right now, when married and have grandkids or whatever.
Right.
But say, hey, in their own time, or whatever. But I said, you know what? If they were married and had kids, they wouldn't have the time to spend with me now. So it's almost a gift that because they're not attached to their own family, that now I can spend time with them. We've done things. We went to Utah last year and hiked a lot of the national parks out there.
Wow.
And my older son doesn't live in the area, but I've gone down to visit him when he lived in Charlotte. To see him, his friends down in Atlanta. I spend time, go down. I'll make just a trip down there for a weekend and see him. And my daughter and I will talk about this a little more. We each year we go on the Camino de Santiago, or a part of it. So
wow.
so that's, and I just try to invest time. The other thing is investing time in people. One thing I really feel guilty about is my parents both passed away relatively young when I was in my mid-40s.
Okay.
Right in the peak. I was really cranking from mid-40s to mid-50s. And I didn't neglect them, but still, I didn't give them the time they should have. My dad passed away first. He had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. My mom had ovarian cancer.
Oh, boy.
And I have a lot of regret and guilt that I didn't give them the time, because I knew
sorry.
I had the time. There wasn't a sudden event; it was gradual, and I did. I made sure they were taking care of that, but I didn't do what I should have, and so.
Did you have siblings?
I have one sibling, but she wasn't able to help that much with her own circumstances. So it fell onto me, and I should have done more. I realized that, and it's almost out of guilt. I feel like actually, my wife's father, he's 93. He's still alive, and I do as much. I help her with him, and I get a kid. He's a character.
Yeah.
He's 93. He's still with it mentally, physically. He lives on his own, and we get together all the time. And here's in the past week, I love spending time to him. I call him when I'm not in Puerto Rico several times a week, and he'll say, "Tell me, how is it you fooled my daughter into marrying you?" He'll say to me, and I'm saying, "I don't know what you mean by fooling your daughter." He goes, "How did you?" And then he'll go, "And by the way, if I pass away before you see me again, you're pardoned." And I'll go, "What am I pardoned for?" And he goes, he doesn't think he needs to be pardoned. He goes, and then we go out to lunch. When I'm down in Puerto Rico once a week at least, he doesn't let me pay. And if I try to pay, he announces to the entire restaurant, "This man is unemployed. His credit is no good."
That's
But
hysterical.
I really tried to help him. My dad had another wife after my mom and everything. He got divorced when I was a young kid, and she helped him towards the end of his life, and a lot. And I've tried to help her.
Right.
And
right.
spend time, helping her as much as I can. And she's in St. Louis, so I just try to find things to do that. Trying to be that better person, helping others, and
But you are. So do you see how you've morphed and how you've changed, and how the universe has provided you with this opportunity?
I have the time. That's why I always I tell this to folks, even I mentioned before, these high schoolers that we chaperone and sponsor. Going over to Europe, I'm one of the van I love driving all over Spain and Italy, a stick shift van and everything. There's no stick shift there in the U.S.
Not anymore, right?
We made great friends with the other chaperones and parents of some of the students who come along. And one of them said, "Hey, our church goes down to El Salvador each year. We said, would you love to come and help out the medical team and stuff?" I said, "Well, I don't know anything about it." They go, "No, we need people to be outside and ministering and stuff and doing." And I go, "That sounds great. I have the time." And, it's nice you can spend your time, going on trips and stuff, but you really feel much better when you're doing something to help others.
Thank you. Yes.
And same with like our church we've gotten more involved with here. And they have this organization they work called the Midnight Run, where they go to the city and they bring clothing and food.
My son did that with the church, yes.
And I've gone on that a few times and just going and seeing these people and listening to their stories in the city and spending the time. You know, you're bringing food, you're bringing clothing. And so, yeah, I try to fill my time with those sort of things also.
You know, they say that sometimes tragedy strips away everything that isn't important.
Yep.
You can relate to that, can't you?
And they said the main thing is, you know, I just try. I don't get over the guilt.
Yeah.
I don't of why I've been given a second chance. I think about it a lot, and it really hits me when a friend, somebody who's maybe younger or something, and something happens to them.
Yeah.
And I go, they were a much better person. You listen to their lives and everything, and everything else. I go, why did this person?
Because only the good die young.
That could be Billy Joel.
Just kidding.
Billy Joel. No, it could. No, I'm saying I said, why? It's really because you see some of these they don't. And I said I don't know why God gave me the opportunity, but I just want to make the most of it.
Well, that's it. You're grateful. I mean, the guilt is there, yes, but sometimes if you let go of the guilt and you recognize that you're using this new opportunity and just to be grateful for that opportunity to be the person that you want to be, to do the things that you felt you should have done. You're doing that.
Yeah. And I'm still, I make mistakes. I'm still can be. If I catch myself now, I see when I've been a jerk. Or something, and I realize it pretty quick. I go, that was bad. And if I get the chance, I try to apologize.
Exactly.
For it. I realize I'm no saint now or whatever. I
you're
think
not
I'm
perfect.
I think I'm a little better than I was before, but I still
you're human.
Be a jerk at times.
But you're human, and give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I've learned on this journey is, we're so quick to forgive other people, but sometimes the last person we forgive is ourselves.
Yeah.
And to recognize that it is a journey and that we are all learning and we're human, and it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, my question that I've been thinking about a lot is you probably, as you said, you've had a hard time figuring out why you're allowed to continue in this world, in this life.
Yeah. So I go, what is, you try to say, what's your purpose?
Yeah.
Why did God give me a second chance?
Yeah.
And I even, there's this thing called the Camino de Santiago.
Yes.
And, they say some people find, their, what's the movie with Emilio Estevez?
Oh. Yes, I saw it too. I can't think of it.
Yeah. So, and I said, you know what? I'm able to walk again because I've had 2 knee replacements. I've lost the weight.
Yes.
I couldn't hardly walk that much before, and now I'm able to without pain.
Right.
I said, I'll do this, and my wife didn't want me going alone and everything. So my daughter. She's an occupational therapist in New York City.
Wow.
With kids with special needs at a school. And
The Way, that movie's The Way.
Yeah, The Way. So, I watched that, and I said, well, this sounds cool. I go, I don't know if I can do the whole thing. It takes 35 days. I go, leaving my other responsibilities, which are very important, being the chauffeur, cook, and dog nanny for 35 days. I go, but I'd go for 8 or 10 days.
Yeah.
And so my daughter works at a school for kids with special needs. She gets off 3 weeks in August each year.
Wow.
And she's given me half of that time. She goes, I want it for my friends also, part of it. She goes, but she's given me 10 days.
Wow.
This will be our 3rd year. We're actually leaving in about a week and a
And
half.
this is in Puerto Rico, not in Spain. Is it in Spain?
It's in Spain.
Oh, it's in Spain. My
Spain.
girlfriend just did this.
The first year, there's different routes. The first year, to get the Compostela, which is like where you need to go at least the last 100 kilometers. The first year, we did the last 120 doing the Portuguese coastal route.
Wow.
Starting right from... We went to Porto and then went up the coast a little bit and started right at the border of Spain and Portugal.
That's like 17 miles a day.
It is, yes. It's like around 50, it's 25 to 30 kilometers, about, whatever that comes out to, 15, 17 miles.
That's incredible.
And so I did a lot of training, and my daughter and I, we had the best time.
Wow.
And so we've done it 3 times. And, the first year was 120 kilometers. Last year, we did the main route, which is called the Frances route. But we started in Sarria, Spain. And so we did about 120 kilometers again over 6 days or so. And this year we're starting in France, right over the border in a town called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and you actually cross over the border and go up to the Pyrenees Mountains.
Wow.
And the first day is the hardest. You're going 20 miles, and it's a lot of elevation climb.
Wow. So what do you do to prepare for this?
You do a lot. I call it the Camino de New Canaan. I walk around the town of New Canaan. They go, that old guy's walking around. They see me. I'll stop off at the boba place in town and get me a boba and everything. But I'll try to walk, every day I'm walking with my dogs, walking my own every 2-3 days. But at least once a week, I'll try to do an 8 or 10 mile longer walk. Wow. This past weekend, I have a friend, because I'm actually going to go for about 20 days this time. My daughter's going to be the first 10, and then I'm taking her, after we get past Pamplona, she has to go back. She has to get back to work and everything. And a friend, one of the fellow chaperones on the trips from Christian Heritage School, he said he would love to go. And he says, I think my wife would like me being gone for 10 days too. So I drop my daughter off in the morning, and he'll come in the afternoon that day, and then he'll do 10 more days with me, the two of us.
That's incredible. I mean, I did an Out of the Darkness walk for suicide awareness through the American Foundation for Suicide Awareness, and that was 16 miles in New York City.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it was the most crazy walk, and my body was just...
You just need to make sure, what takes people out are blisters and you twist an ankle.
Well,
you get lazy late in the day.
My fingers were swollen.
And your hands get swollen, during the day.
Yeah.
And, the typical day, you get up early, you do about 6 miles, and then you have a mid-morning coffee break, cafe con leche.
Yeah.
And then you take another for a half hour, and then you do another 6 miles, and then you have a lunch break. You want to be done by mid-afternoon, by 2-ish, because it really gets hot.
Siesta?
But you want to get to the next place where you're staying by mid-afternoon. Then you can rest for a couple hours, and then you go explore that town. And then it's like rinse, repeat, the next day.
Oh, my gosh.
And but one of the things, you meet people.
Yeah.
Once then going back, you meet other people, and a lot of people are by themselves.
Yeah.
Very few Americans. I'd say less than 5% are from the U.S.
Wow.
About half from Spain, and then a lot from Europe, a lot of Irish, a lot of Catholics go.
Yes, my girlfriend is Kim.
It's
she
a
went
pilgrimage, and
she just did and she was telling me, she told me you would love it, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that.
You don't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can do a part at the end. I do recommend, if a person's going the first time, do the last 100 plus, because you finish in Santiago de Compostela, and when you get there, I observe the people. And you'll have big groups all celebrating. Mm. You'll have other people by themselves. Just you're in this big square looking at the beautiful church there in Santiago. And you try to go to the pilgrim service. They have a few a day there at the church. And even though it's most of the one I went to last year was in Spanish, I know enough Spanish to get by, and I actually could understand.
Thanks to your father-in-law.
Exactly. So it's just, I'm just so appreciative. But then, one of the neat things is my daughter and I started this thing in the first year that you run into these beautiful churches, all different sizes along the way, and we'd stop off in the churches. I have to admit, I originally was doing it to get some shade and a break, to take a break outside. That was my original purpose for stopping. Let's go look inside this church. There was nothing spiritual involved at all. It was a matter of, I need a rest and I need to get in the shade. But then eventually... And even my daughter, we'd stop at everyone, because I remember she goes, my daughter, I was going to say, we'll skip it. She goes, no, we stop at the church. And I started, especially last year or two, I had people and things I'd pray for. And in the church, and it gave you that opportunity to think, praying for specific people that need that. And it really is, and it's just was a special part of it, that sharing the time with my daughter, hearing her stories, her life.
How beautiful is that?
And
this is what your soul's purpose is.
Well, and I think my wife doesn't mind me getting a break from me, because you have to remember, I had a lot of people reporting to me that I would tell to do stuff. And she goes to me like, she goes, I had a full life before
She goes, I was the CEO of the house. You might have been the CFO.
And I go,
I'm the CEO.
I now only have 3 employees, the 2 dogs and you. And by the way, the dogs are doing better for you. You're on a performance improvement plan.
Yes, exactly.
She really has done well in adjusting to me being around, because I can be a pain.
I'm sure. Well, she had her own lifestyle, like you had your life. She had her priorities, but she too, adapted to the change.
Exactly. She did a great job. She was the one taking care of these kids and raising them. And so now I'm trying to make up for lost time, and I'm thankful I have it. But, she was the one that was carrying that load while I was out making my career number one in everything.
Oh, my God. So, we've talked a bit about your physical journey. We've talked a bit about your emotional journey. And now, the relationship with your wife and your children. Talk to me about what brings you joy in all of this now.
I would say, the joy is actually I spend time with people. I miss my coworkers. Remember I said about my coworkers? And I will actually, it's funny, people I are actually a lot alike in that they don't reach out to people if you don't naturally run into them anymore.
Yeah.
But I purposely try to reach out to people, whether it's, former coworkers, some of them maybe have retired now, others are still working.
Right.
And try to get together for lunch and catch up on what's going on in their lives. The group of friends we made of the chaperones going over to Europe, they're an incredible group of people from Christian Heritage School. And just hearing them and their influences on me and my wife, it's just, I would tell you that is really getting to spend time with these people. But sometimes you have to be the one reaching out.
Yeah.
And it's funny, when I do it, they really are happy. It's like people are afraid to reach out and make that, hey, let's get together for lunch. And people don't do that. And I say, you know what? I'm going to be that person.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been.
No.
I wasn't going to reach out just to randomly catch up with an old friend or anything.
Wow.
And so I try to be purposeful about it. If I'm going back to St. Louis to check on a relative who maybe doing, I'll also take the time to reach out to an old friend, maybe a good friend from, my wife and I joke, we're still friends with, we were in a young marrieds group in our church in St. Louis.
Yeah.
We still are called the young marrieds. Our young marrieds friends. We're in our 60s now. And I'll reach out and catch up with them. And you just have to make that effort. And a lot of people I think are afraid to do it, or you're like me, that, they say, well, why would I do that? It's not bringing in. But now it does. I realize how important that
Community and support is everything.
Yeah.
I'm finding that more and more as I get older. And, I think a part of me always knew that. We've always had a good, strong friend group around us. But you really count on that as you go through some tough things.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So you've lived in two very different worlds. You've had the world before.
It is.
The medical event, and now.
It is a really a different life. It really, it's hard to think. In fact, sometimes in the time hop, on your phone, old pictures show up, and you'll see that, and I'll see that, and I'll think back to what was going on, because I just had that look in my eyes and my face that, of the stress that was there. And there's still stresses in life. Don't get everybody has stress, but it's a different. I'm addressing them in the right way, but it's a different life.
Well, your success was measured by your title and your accolades in the career world. Today, your success is measured much differently.
Yep.
It's more in time spent with those you love.
Yep.
Agree. And time spent on showing yourself some love.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess, maybe there's something that you value right now that you've overlooked before, like your family, your children.
There's the one thing, there's just a lot. There's always guilt.
Yeah.
And I have guilt. Even, I told you about my parents, that I didn't spend the time with my kids when they were younger, but I'm getting a second chance. I didn't with my parents, but I'm trying to make up for it with them.
Yeah.
And you just, you try to, to do the best you can now, but you will have those feelings of like, why didn't I do more earlier when I should have?
Well, that's it. And if you had the chance to go back to the Bill you were before and just whisper in his ear something, what would you tell him?
I tell him, turn off the phone. Turn off the phone. Put the phone down. Don't look at it. And, I was always on for work. And it was just, weekends. And I always thought I could see people like enjoying their Sundays and Sunday evenings. I was already fully locked and loaded thinking about I'm going to hit the ground running Monday mornings. And, and so I never got out of it. I'd say, put down the phone, separate. And then I had some friends and coworkers that would do that were really hard to get reach of.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand it
when
I was in the workforce, and I totally get it now. And I want to apologize to them because I judged them saying, you didn't have you weren't there, and it was really hard for me to get a hold of you. And they were doing the right thing. Yeah. And I was the one who was wrong.
No, but it's a journey, but you got there. Yeah. And I think you're doing so awesome. I really do. Yeah. And if you could tell, like I say, somebody today in the position you were then, you would tell them to just drop the phone or?
Drop the phone. I would say, a few things I think of. One thing is, don't wait for some big event or a medical event to have you focus on things that are truly important. And I'd say those two. First of all, your health. Yeah. That's important to everybody. Yeah. You want, sometimes you can't control it, it's genetics, but to the extent you can control it, focus on that. And so I say, focus on being present, having, the right, investing in relationships. You get out of, my wife was always great at investing, asking questions about people. I didn't follow her example. She would always be asking about others and what's going on in their life, and I didn't.
Right.
And now I purposely try and say, what's going on? Hey, anything we can do to help?
It's amazing. And people actually respond to that.
Yeah.
Just you can change their whole day by just asking one little question,
And balance in life. The thing, not just me, but I think my generation a lot, as whatever the end of the baby boomers, beginning of Gen X, that everybody put work as such a priority. You did everything for it. You don't need work, having a fulfilling career. That's important too. And enjoying that and having it be a part. But don't be more balanced. And I actually see it with the younger generation that they're getting it. A lot of them that more balance. Yeah. They want to have that personal time. Work is important. They want to do good in that career. But I think they get it much better than me in particular, and a lot of my generation.
I think it was our generation. I think we worked and worked and worked.
They told me where to
move.
Our
parents did the same thing.
Exactly. I moved.
Yeah.
I said, I'll move. I'll go to Charlotte. Yeah, what's down in Charlotte?
Well, that's so true. All right. Well, let's just before we finish, I just want to go back to something you said, that you still don't understand why you were giving another chance. And I don't know if any of us completely know the answers to those questions. But I do believe that, as I was telling you earlier, that something beautiful happens when we are given that other chance. And we have the ability to share our stories. Okay. And by sharing those stories, we're able to help other people.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not. I try not. I don't think I'm as much of a jerk as I was before, but I just try to be better. I just try to be nicer to people and saying I don't know what they're going through, and not to be as judgmental. Like I said, I judge and say I just don't know, and so I try to be better. And I may never find, but I'm just trying to. You've shared your story today, and you are going to save lives today. I'm telling you, you are, and I can't thank you enough for that. And after every episode, I end it with one of my son Scott's poems because I love to keep his memory alive. I haven't gotten to that, but it is amazing the thought and the depth that he had as a teenager in writing those. I said I was so simple-minded when I was back at that age and reading. I read some of his poems in your book, and the deepness of his poems. is just incredible. He was such an incredible individual.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And the poem I chose, I try to associate I chose the one called "My 8 Reasons Why."
Yeah.
And he wrote that he dedicated this poem to his mom because I'm the best mom in the world, according to Scott.
Yeah.
So it says, "You are my world. You are my life. You are my reason why. You are my love. You are my pride. You are the reason why. You are my thoughts. You are my lies. You are the reason why. You are my queen. You are my lives. You are the reason why. You are my reasons why, and nothing will ever change my 8 reasons why." And Scott and I had a really great relationship.
What a gift.
When he wrote those words, I had no idea how our life would change and what they meant. And today I hear them differently. I hear them as a reminder that we are all someone's reasons why.
Yeah.
You are someone's reasons why. Someone needs to smile. Someone needs wisdom. Someone needs encouragement. And someone may need to hear our stories. And I just want to say thank you. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you. It's incredible
your
what you're
story.
doing here. It's just amazing.
Oh my gosh. And to our listeners, if you're struggling, if you're leading an unhealthy lifestyle, you're caught up in work, take a page out of Bill's book and just take a breath and know that there are so many important things, that life is worth living, and just take good care of yourself. And this is S.O.S. Stories of Survivors, where survival sparks the soul. Thank you.